it back in the 60s. What does somebody walk into a candy store, newsstand, drugstore in 1965? What are they buying? They're buying a comic book that was, okay, here's what we know. We know it was penciled by Jack Kirby. We know it was inked by, let's say, Dick Ayers. We know that Artie Simek did the lettering. We know that Stan Goldberg did the coloring. What did Stan Lee do? Stan Lee was the guy who put the words in the characters' mouths, but he was also the editor, the art director, and the cousin-in-law of the owner of the company. Therefore, what Stan said more or less went, because Kirby and Ditko had relatively few options where else to go to make comparable money, or there were a lot of complicated issues. So Stan was the boss, but he was also a co-creator and collaborator. And what I feel what he did, and I don't think he never plotted. I think he was. I think there were sometimes plot conferences. It depended on the era, especially with Kirby. But what Stan could do, and I'm not saying it's right or fair or admirable, but he could say to Jack, this story you've plotted isn't working. Go back and redraw these pages, and I'm going to write my dialogue, and I'm sorry if it contradicts the story, that you thought you were telling, but I have a story to tell that I think readers will enjoy and relate to more. So it's that murky area of collaboration and Stan's multiple hats that he wore. No, I mean, honestly, based on the evidence of the comics done, again, I think Kirby always had somebody scripting, even the Challengers of the Unknown, and I don't know about Captain America, but I think Simon and Kirby had a staff of people working with them. So, again, and this is why I wrote a book about it. Other people have written books about it. So I think Stan gave it this certain, although Stan, what everybody knows of Stan is Stan, the Hollywood guy and the rich guy and the famous guy. One thing that I always found, one of the things fascinating about Stan, he lived in a very fancy house with a lot of original art, it was all, he had that Hollywood lifestyle, but the room he worked in was just a plain paneled room with I remember being there in the days of the dot matrix printers. He had like a cardboard box that his printer printed. So, I mean, there was a part of Stan that, as much of a celebrity and as wealthy as he might have become, never lost touch with that poor, struggling kid desperate to get out, of break out of poverty and break out of these kind of the New York, I wouldn't call them slums, but not just a step removed from slums that he grew up in, So I think he never lost touch with the regular person, with the average reader, with what somebody, and I think that goes, and at the same time, he was also writing the cover copy, writing the bullpen bulletins, ballyhooing, writing the letters column answers, which for me were they felt very personal, even though I knew there were hundreds of thousands of people. So, by the same token, without the imaginations and the talent and the storytelling abilities of Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko, Stan could not have accomplished that, and not have created this entity that is Marvel,